For those of you with a scientific background, and I have a scientific background, in fact, it is where my highest aptitude was, I like to refer again back to quantum physics, because quantum physics has established through experiments such as the double slit experiment that reality, physical reality, composed of these so-called subatomic particles, behave in accordance with the observation and expectation of the observer. They discovered, for example, with what's called the double slit experiment, that if they shined, for example, a beam of photons or electrons, and now they're going to be doing it with larger particles or larger energy packets, that if you just let it go, the light or the electrons would appear to go through both slits, act like waves, and cause an interference pattern on the photographic plate behind the slits. If there's only one slit open, it behaves like particles and forms a nice bright white line. What they did was they devised what they call a photon gun, and then later an electron gun, that was able to fire a single photon at a time, and they did it later with electrons. Of course, with one slit open, it behaved, of course, like a particle, like they would expect, because it was a single photon, or a little packet of light, a single electron. When they opened two slits, they expected to see two lines, because they're firing them one at a time. That's not what happened. They got an interference pattern, which made no sense. In fact, it freaked physicists out, because if the photon or electron is going through one at a time, how can it interfere with itself and create an interference pattern on the photographic plate? The mathematics is stranger. It suggests that each particle, whether photon or electron, goes through neither slit and then goes through both slits, and then interferes with itself, which makes no sense. And this occurs because without an observer, the reality is unfinished. So it is behaving as, as a wave, no matter how many particles at a time you fire it. So what they did is they placed a device, I think it was called a Stern-Gerlach device, which creates a magnetic field. I'm sorry, a detector that would detect when an electron or photon went through a slit. The Stern-Gerlach device was used for something else. And they wanted to find out which slit it was actually going through, what indeed was happening. As soon as they put the measuring device, it stopped making an interference pattern. It was as if the photon or the electron knew it was being watched. What happened was the observation collapsed what's called the wave function, and the thing then manifested. It went from being pre-existent or pre-manifest, actually manifest, and behaved like an individual particle. The other quantum physics experiments have demonstrated that physical reality behaves in accordance with the beliefs and expectations of the observer, which means, and can only mean, that we in essence are non-physical consciousness observers. We know that because one physical, so-called quote-unquote, object cannot collapse the wave function of another, okay? The saucer cannot collapse the wave function of the spoon, for an example, the wall to the door or whatnot. So we have the ability of creation, of finishing physical reality, actually manifesting physical reality in its final form from an undifferentiated wave of probabilities.